Alrighty guys, LMC here and welcome to another video. And today we've got to ride this thing. So this is my mate's CBR250RR MC22. I tell you what, I know I say this a lot, but I'm so excited to ride this bike. I mean, this bike kind of doesn't really need an introduction. It's got such a pedigree behind it, such a massive cult following here in Australia. People just love these little things. Little 250cc inline 4 engine. They're similar to that Bandit 250 I rode, but this is the real deal. So this isn't just some clapped out commuting bike. This is the proper super sport affair. So I've never ridden a super sport style bike before, so this will be my sort of first go at it. I'm really curious to see what it feels like. But anyway, let's get to it. Let's go. My mate's going to ride my 500. It's a beautiful day in Melbourne. Alrighty, far out. Okay, so the very first thing I noticed is that this is basically as comfortable as straddling a plank of woods on a pile of bricks. It's not very comfortable at all, but I imagine that is not going to matter. Alright, what are we doing? Oh, this is hard to squeeze myself in here. We've only got one mirror. Oh god, it's got no torque down low. No torque down low. Alrighty. Alright, here we go guys. 250RR. Oh god, I'm so excited. Jesus, this thing is noisy. All I can hear is the engine just screaming at me, and I'm not even giving it beans. We're at 10,000 revs, which is like maybe 60% of its limit. Oh man, this thing sounds like a dream. What a sound. What a sound. This is insane. Listen to that. You cannot argue with that, can you? What a noise. Oh, that's the horn. Holy shit! What a machine! Oh, that was heaps of fun. Holy shit! I'm not even speeding. Oh, I should be speeding. With this amount of theatre, this craziness, I should be speeding, but I'm not. This thing is amazing. Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay, so because this thing makes so much noise and carries on so dramatically, you hammer it off the line, and you look down at your speedo and you think, oh, I must be speeding. You know, I must be doing 100 k's an hour in a 60 zone. I must be completely over the limit and I'm going to be in big trouble because the cop's going to find me or something like that. But then you look down at your speedo and you're just doing the limit. It's just literally all show. But God, that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. I tell you what, I am smiling. I'm grinning from ear to ear. What a crazy little machine. Alright, so as I mentioned before, this is my first time riding I guess a super sport style of bike. Everything I've ridden so far has been very upright, and whether they've been faired or naked, they've just had a very upright sitting position. Whereas this one has a full crumpled up, leant over position, and it's yeah, God, it's totally different. I mean, over a long period of time, it would probably be very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure you get used to it, right? I mean, anyone who owns this bike or owns a super sport would eventually get used to it and would eventually get used to commuting on it. But coming from my bike, my plush thick seat with its upright position, yeah, it is not very comfortable. But I tell you what, I don't even give a shit. That's the honest truth. I don't care. I don't care at all. This thing is an absolute smile maker. That's what this is. It just makes smiles. Alrighty, let's see what it's like taking it up through some twisty roads. So probably won't be as chatty right now because now we're hitting up some twisty roads and it isn't my bike. So I'll be taking it easy and seeing what it's like. Oh, I tell you what you notice about the super sport position is that it does handle better. I mean, I know that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, they're the sporty, this is the sporty position, so it makes sense that it handles better. But you really underestimate how much better it handles until you have a go at it. You know, like I feel, even though this bike's 20 years old, you know, it's a lot older than my bike. It's done fair few Ks, and it's probably, a lot of those kilometers have been pretty hard on it, I'm sure. You know, it doesn't have all the safety features, etc. But I tell you what, this position of the bike just gives you so much more confidence when turning through corners. I mean, I know I suck at this. I have I'm under no delusions that I'm a novice rider. But I've been up this road before on my bike, and it feels better on this bike. I'll be honest, it does. Like, it feels much better on this bike, and that's because you're over the front wheel. You know, the front wheel is, it feels, I know it's not, but it feels like I could touch the front wheel from where I am. That's kind of the feeling you get with a bike like this, and that just gives you so much more confidence through the corners, because you're putting so much more weight onto the front wheel, and you know, like your head is right over it, and that just means, you know, leaning through the corners. God, I hope you guys can hear me. But so when you lean through the corners, you just feel much more confident. It's really cool, really cool. I really wish I had time to get to know this bike and then, you know, really feel confident on it, so I could really hit it hard through these twisting roads, because God, a super sport on the twisting roads, it's the only way to go. I mean, you can do it on my bike. You know, I mean, I've ridden this road before with my bike, so you can do it, but it's much harder. You know, it's much harder because, like, the suspension on my bike is soft and squishy, so if you brake hard, you know, with my bike, if you brake, well, you know, not just my bike, but lots of them, if you brake hard into a corner, the front end dips down because the suspension's very soft. You know, and of course I mentioned that upright seating position just means it's not quite as easy to sort of take the corners. But I mean, you can do it, but there is no substitute for a proper super sport position. And this makes me so excited to get off my restricted license. I just can't wait. Knowing that this kind of stuff is out there and this kind of riding experience is out there, all I want to do now is get off my restricted license and find myself a nice super sport. But now the sensible side of me is going to kick in. I can see why people do have a restricted license, because God, all it would take was someone who doesn't know what they're doing with a bike they can't control, thinking very grandly of their own set of skills, and you can easily kill yourself out here. So easy. But anyway, that's enough of that morbid talk. Let's just hear more of this. And I'm still not even speeding. I can't believe it. I feel like I should be. It's so impressive. The feeling of this bike. God, and I tell you what, it teaches you, this sort of bike would teach you really good throttle control, because, I mean, I'm doing a bad job of it, I know that, but it's definitely, the throttle is definitely not as forgiving, you know, like, you just feel like it snap on a little bit more. So this would definitely teach you some good throttle control. So the reason so the part of the reason I'm checking this bike out, and there is a serious reason, I promise. This is not just all fun and games, is because my girlfriend actually wants to start learning how to ride a bike. But she has a bit of a problem. She's freaking tiny. My girlfriend is literally, near as makes no difference, 5 foot nothing. And she's like 45 kilos. So she's this tiny little person. And as a result, you know, she barely fits on any bikes. So we've been really struggling to actually get her onto a bike. The only bikes we've been able to get her on have been cruisers, you know, getting her on a cruiser. So we checked out things like the Suzuki Intruder 250 and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff works. But she has her heart set on a sport bike, you know, that's what she wants, fair enough. So we're working hard to try and find her something that she can fit on. And one idea we had was this bike, because it is, you know, so bloody small. It's so small. So yeah, that's why I'm checking out this bike. So I promise it's not all fun and games. So if you're really, really short, maybe you can get this bike. Although it's a little tricky because they're quite old now. You know, they are 20 years old, around about that, and they are, you know, they're fairly few and far between. Like, you have to work pretty hard to find one, I reckon, especially in good condition. I mean, this one's got a few cosmetic nicks and a bit of wear and tear cosmetically, but my friend who owns it, he loves this thing more than he loves oxygen, so it's been really well taken care of. He loves it to pieces, and it's the only thing he's got, so like he just rides it all the time. So yeah, if you can find one that's in good condition, you know, is a good example of one much like this, I mean, notwithstanding the missing mirror. But if you can find one that's in good mechanical condition, and you either like trust the person who owns it, or you can get a mechanic to check it out or something, then there's really no reason you can't buy one of these bikes. I mean, they're kind of bulletproof, you know. They're rated to some ridiculous amount of kilometers. I mean, I think they enjoy long life. They can do 100,000 kilometers or more, apparently, according to forums and to other sources. These things are fairly bulletproof, so you shouldn't be too worried about getting one that doesn't that has a fair few kilometers on the clock, because I mean, that's going to be all the case. I mean, this one is, it says 30,000 Ks, which to me sounds quite low actually for something that's so old. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I can't, now that I'm riding it, I can't really tell that it's done that many Ks. The engine doesn't feel like it's really struggling because it's done 70 Ks. I suppose it's hard for me to say, right, because I haven't ridden one. I never rode one that was brand new. So maybe if I rode a new one, it would be different, but it doesn't feel like the engine's struggling. I'll be honest with you, this bike is not very comfortable. Okay, it's not. I said at the start that it feels like straddling a plank of wood on a pile of rocks, and that's true. It is not comfortable, especially if you're going down a hill like I am now. There is a lot of weight on my testicles. Basically, it's crushing my nuts, I'll be honest. And that's because, you know, it is a super sport position, so a lot of my weight is onto the tank a little bit, and that's exaggerated because I'm going down a hill. So if I had to brake hard under these conditions, it would not be comfortable. It would not be comfortable. So if you have a really long commute or something like that, yeah, this bike was not going to be pleasant for that. But you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. The other thing is that the suspension on this is super firm compared to my bike. Again, to be expected, it's a super sport, so you know, you've kind of got to take these things into account when you get a bike. This bike that I'm on, the 250RR, and my bike, the 500F that my mate's riding at the moment, you know, they're built from the ground up to be very different bikes, built for different purposes. And you know, you just got to come to expect that and deal with it, really. So there is one thing about the super sport position that I think is more difficult to do, and that's to change directions. So, and that's probably to do mostly with the handlebars. So on my bike, the handlebars, they're sort of, you know, big and very wide, and as a result, it makes it really dead easy to just kind of yank it from one direction to another. You know, so it makes it easy to kind of do S's on the road, because you can just jam the handlebars back and forth, and the bike just responds. On a super sport, well, this one at least, it's, you know, because the handlebars are right tucked in here, you know, there's not much room between the handlebar and the tank, and it's so narrow and close together, it's much harder. You have to work a lot harder to throw it from one direction to another. So yeah, that's just something I noticed, something to keep in mind. Like, even though through these twisty roads, this position overall is much more confidence inspiring, it's actually easier on the 500F and other, you know, sort of naked upright kind of things like my bike. It's actually easier to change direction on my bike. But once you're into the corner, once you're sort of leant over a little bit, not that I'm leaning over much, but once you've sort of leant into the corner, this bike, the Super Sport, is much easier to control. there you go. Food for thought. But it does make me, this bike has sold me on super sport riding. You know, I always thought that I'd probably just be a naked bike rider because they're comfortable, and I actually really like the look of naked bikes personally. The fully fared look doesn't really appeal to me that much, but now that I've taken a super sport style of bike onto these twisting roads and had a bit of fun, it's definitely the way to go. Definitely the way to go. It's like, I mean, it's hard to explain. Like, you could definitely do all this stuff on a bike that's not a super sport. Like, don't get me wrong, you can still do it and you can still have lots of fun. And if you're an experienced rider and you know your bike inside out, I'm sure you could really hit these twisting roads hard on a non-super sport bike. But I kind of feel like it would only ever be a B-grade experience. You know, and I hope I'm not going to piss people off by making a comment like that. But I just feel like you could take, if you took a naked bike and a super sport bike that were basically the same, so I don't know, something like the Kawasaki Z800, which is like Kawasaki's naked bike, and then some super sport from Kawasaki like the Ninja, and just for the sake of argument, assume that they're identical in every single way except for the fact that one of them is an upright naked bike. The upright naked bike's simply not going to do this as well. That's all. It may still be able to do it, but it's just not going to do as good a job. That's all. That's the only point I'm trying to make there. Just to finish this video off, guys, there's only one thing that matters with a bike like this. Like, all of the little bits and pieces that aren't quite perfect, you know, this one's missing a mirror, you know, it's uncomfortable as hell, it kind of hurts the meat and veg, especially on a downhill like this. All of that is irrelevant. All that is totally irrelevant when you get out here and you're riding, and the smile, you just can't wipe that smile off your face. You know, it's one of those things where you can point out all the good points, you can point out all the bad points, but that one good point, that this is just a smile maker. It just makes you grin when you ride it. And when you come to realize that, all of the negative points just don't even matter anymore. They just simply don't matter. You forget that your balls hurt. You forget that your bum's vibrating so much that you're probably not going to be able to feel it for several hours after you get off. All that stuff just doesn't matter. You just want more of this. That's all you want. When you hear that engine, the microphone is not doing it justice, I can almost guarantee it. But when you hear that engine with a nice exhaust for the first time, if that doesn't make you smile, there's something wrong with you. Oh, what a beautiful bike. Alright guys, well, I'm going to end on that note. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions at all about the bike that I didn't cover in the video, just hit me up in the comments and I'll get to all of them. If you want to see me ride more of this, well, you never know, I might actually end up buying one for my girlfriend, provided she fits on it and she likes it. We'll see how we go. So maybe give me a like if you want to see me buy one of these, just so the girlfriend can have it and just so I can steal it from her on the weekends. So give me a thumbs up if you want that to happen. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next video.